Peace, family. Hello, Grand Rising, Joyous Rising. Happy Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom. Happy Saturday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Great Rising, Grand Rising, Rich Risings, Golden Rising. Hello, it's so good to see you all today. Happy Inauguration Day. Hello again to all of my family members. Please check in. Let us know where you're hailing from. I am here in Jacksonville on my patio, enjoying the nice weather, the cool breeze, and the rain. So it's good to see everybody here. I just wanted to address a few things that are heavily on my mind or even lightly on my mind. But before we get into that, happy Inauguration Day. I don't know if you all know it, but the 4th of March is the official inauguration date for the president of the United States, the Republic of the United States. So, according to our republic, presidents are supposed to be inaugurated on March the 4th. And you can see here that it was always the inauguration day of the president of our republic until the ratification of the 20th Amendment in 1933. And that so until that time, again, the official date for presidential inaugurations was March the 4th. When the 4th fell on a Sunday, as it did in 1821, 1849, 1877, and 1970, the ceremonies were held on March the 5th. So they did eventually go and change the inauguration date. And I'll leave this article in the description section for you so that you can read it. It talks to you about why the inauguration date was changed and how it came to be done on a later date. And so this is very interesting because once the United States of America, our republic, was usurped by the bloodline families, they changed the day, as they did change many things. But today is the official inauguration date for the president. So perhaps something will happen on today. We don't know. Some people say that President Trump was actually inaugurated or re-inaugurated under the republic by the military on March the 4th, a couple of years ago. So we know that he is the commander in chief behind the scenes, but 46 is, or Biden is who they say is the legal president. And if he is the president, it would be the president of the United States Incorporated. However, the United States Incorporated is bankrupt and defunct. So even if it weren't bankrupt and defunct, 46 is actually a president of a corporation and not the president of our republic. So again, today is March 4th. It is a presidential inauguration date. If it is true that Donald Trump was inaugurated officially by the military, the Grand Army of the Republic, or the military that's in charge on March the 4th, I believe like in 2020, then that would make him the lawful president. And that would mean that 46 is unlawful. And that might be why his inauguration was not on March the 4th, as many presidential leaders over the corporation of the United States Incorporated doesn't happen on March 4th. But it also might be why it didn't happen at noon. It happened at a different time other than noon when 46 was inaugurated, because it was not a lawful, or neither was it a real inauguration. And, we know this over here, and that could indeed be why we got a document not long ago that I reported on from the Department of Defense talking about a presidential transition. So if you remember, I reported on this, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago, a document that we got from the Department of Defense that I was so appreciative to Gold Star Mother Susan Price for forwarding this to me and asking me what I thought about it. Excuse me for the noise in the background. I am on my patio because it's such a lovely day today. So this document plans for presidential transitions and the transition of political appointees and other officials. And you all may recall that I talked about how this came from the Department of Defense. The effective date, it became effective August the 30th, 2022. But the change date was February the 3rd, exactly a month and a day ago, 2023. It was cleared for release to the public so that we can know what they're planning behind the scenes, right? And it goes on to tell you what the purpose of this was. to establish policies for the transference of authority from outgoing to incoming senior officials during the transition between presidential administrations or in the course of other personnel's actions, including but not limited to resignations, retirement, or reassignment. The purposes also was to establish a policy for the departure and arrival of political or certain non-career appointees. And it was also, this document was created to assign responsibilities for administration, management, and direction of transition activities pursuant to Executive Order 13727. So I brought this up because we see, thank you so much, you all, for your blessing. I really appreciate you. Mwah. Thank you, Matthew. I love you so much for taking care of me. As always, may the Creator bless you with long life, prosperity, and peace. And thank you, Tatum. Oh, I thank you so much for loving me. And she says I'm an angel incarnate. I appreciate that. May the Creator bless you. She's calling me Dr. Sunshine with prosperity, joy, and peace. Yes, that's so wonderful. You all, thank you for all the monetary blessings. So we see that 46 and some of the other leaders that actually came in under United States Incorporated, they're not lawful presidents. That might be why he swore on a book that looked like a book of Satan. It was turned upside down. That might be why they all had on red and yellow to mimic the colors of the Communist Chinese Party. Who knows? But we do know that he was not inaugurated under the Republic, because that inauguration date, that official date, is today, or March the 4th. So be on the lookout for anything, any news that might come out between today, tomorrow, and maybe even the 6th, because if the 4th falls on a Sunday, then the inauguration date is supposed to be on the 5th. But the 4th happens to fall on a Saturday. So we don't know exactly what they're going to do. So keep in mind that usually they do things based on official dates and based on numerology. So again, many people know by now that 46 is not the lawful president, as well as many of the presidents that came before 45, because they were presidents of the corporation. Now, this could be one of the reasons why Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, came up with an announcement that he was going to hold some hearings that were to begin on February the 8th in order to probe into not only this laptop of 46's son, but he actually went into detail about how he was going to oversee the behavior of 46. And he talked about how 46 was involved in trafficking, and he talked about how 46 had done some things that breached our security. So I will put this in the description section for you to read at your leisure. This is just one of the many documents where he talked about investigating President Joe Biden and his family, including his son. Now I'll let you all listen to Kevin McCarthy actually saying that. And if you want me to, I could bring that video up to you so you can see how deeply this investigation goes, how deeply they look into it. And not only looking into the investigation, but having hearings. And he said we were going to do this hearing the day after or shortly thereafter the State of the Union address, which he did hold to his promise. So he says this administration needs checks and balances. Any administration needs checks and balances, Comer said Monday morning at the National Press Club. So then they go into talking about why the House GOP is investigating the whole family. He insisted that the House oversight is investigating the president and not his son only, claiming that 46 is the chairman of the board in a family business scheme in which he has leveraged his political power and connections for personal gain. Republicans are expected to scrutinize his son's ties to foreign companies and even the artwork that he sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The American people deserve transparency and accountability about the Biden's family's influence peddling, Comer said. Comer, again, is the Speaker of the House, and he said that in a statement earlier in the month of February. He leads a committee of some of the most hardline conservatives in Congress, including Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has renewed her push to impeach 46. The White House said that Comer is setting the stage for divorce from reality political stunts and handing the keys of oversight to the most extreme MAGA members of the Republican caucus. So a lot of people don't know. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know that the official inauguration date of the Republic of our country is actually March the 4th. But if you don't know, now you know, you know. So happy inauguration date, family. Now let's get into the real reason I came on today. On yesterday, and actually earlier in the week, all week long, we've been talking about what's been happening to our children. Because on last week, when I brought on XRP Lion One to talk about XRP, to talk about our new financial system, and also to include in that speech how we will have access to massive amounts of funds. But before we can get access to that, your energy will be read or detected to see if you had a good heart or pure heart to do righteously with the money, or if you had a heart to do evil with the money. And some people simply did not understand or overstand why someone would come on Dr. Kia Pruitt's platform to say, if your energy was not correct and your heart was not pure, why would you say that person would not have access to their funds that belongs to them? And that's a legitimate question. Well, I'm always happy to answer the questions. The reason why some people will not have access to their funds, the millions of dollars that are being ejected into the economy, and the funds that come from your trust that originated from your birth certificate bond that was circulated on the New York Stock Exchange, accruing money, maturing, and now having like hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in those trust accounts, is because as we ascend to higher dimensions, which Dr. Delbert Blair, a metaphysician, spoke of in the 90s. He spoke of us ascending and going to the fifth dimension and higher dimensions. As we are ascending in this golden era, golden age, to go to heaven or to just new dimensions where we'll have 1,000 years of peace, as Gold Star Mother Susan Price and Prime Minister spoke of, that's happening. And they got this from the Bible because the Bible talks about it. As we're ascending to this time, if you have a heart to hurt people, to commit crimes against humanity, and to hurt our most precious, valuable resource, our children, you will not have access to the money because your heart is not in the right place. And if the beings or the people and the entities and power and the creator will allow people with an impure heart to have access to that money, they may use the money to continue to do things that they did with children. And so I know that might have hurt a lot of people's feelings to hear that everybody won't go. But when you consider that we're going to a place of love, a planet full of joy and abundance, a planet where there will be no more harm, there will be no more war, there will be no more feeding off of our psychic energy. When you think about that, then maybe you'll get a better understanding and overstanding of why nefarious beings will not be allowed to go. As a matter of fact, a lot of those people and non-human entities exited the planet a long time ago through the portals. So you had a warfare that was going on between good and evil to protect not only humanity all across the globe, but especially to protect the children. So what they did was they opened up the portals, those galactics that are here to help us fight the battle, and the military, which is why 45 put a whole lot of money into the secret space program, into the military. What they did, that they gathered and eliminated those nefarious entities, those satanic beings, and sent them off the planet. So all the portals were closed after that, those incidents occurred. And this is one of the reasons why I believe it was like a 4th of July ceremony, maybe 2018 or 2019. I don't know if you remember it, but it was a big ceremony. And it was right after President Trump announced putting a whole lot of money into the secret space program and to the military. A lot of people were trying to shame him for spending all that money in secret space and spending all that money in the military. Because they didn't know that the military was fighting those nefarious entities that were harming our children. So right after he made that announcement that he was pouring the money into the funds, he then had this great big 4th of July ceremony. Do y'all remember that? And he had planes and jets flying all over all over. I believe it was in Washington, D.C. It was huge, a huge episode of fireworks. And then he made this beautiful speech. And he said, we've done all we can to secure the skies and to ensure the safety and well-being of our people. What he was saying in codes is that we've gotten rid of the satanic powers, those nefarious entities and beings, and we've ejected them from the planet. We've secured the skies. This is how you know a spy balloon cannot come over here from China. Our skies have been secured. Satan, Baal, Molech, whatever you want to call Lucifer, those entities have been ejected from the planet. And this is what the scripture was talking about when it says that Satan would be bound for 1,000 years. Okay. And then you will have a new heaven and a new earth descending from the clouds. I, John, saw a new heaven and new earth descend from the clouds, because that's what we're about to experience. Some of us are actually already in 4D and 5D, so I'm one of those that I'm not in 3D anymore. So that's why I have a lot of joy. And that's why you don't see a lot of this angst going on around me, because I'm in a whole nother dimension. But President Trump spoke of securing the skies. Now, what you do have is some minions that are still here on the planet doing certain things to stir you up. And those are actors or minions, or just a few people, the remnants that's left over, because their overlords are no longer here and they no longer have money. They don't really have power to do hurtful, harmful things to our children. However, there's a remnant of them left over. And before the remnant, there were a whole lot of people that had infiltrated every segment of our society to hurt our children. Thank you so much, Sister Tatum. I appreciate you. May the Creator bless you with long life, prosperity, and peace, and give you all your heart's desires. Thank you for just being so considerate and loving towards me. So you had these not only human beings, but these non-human entities that came to the planet to, yes, take our gold, to take our resources, and also to harvest our energy, to harvest our humans and our children. And this is why a lot of people talk about being confiscated and talk about being taken off planet into some of these ships. And they give you detailed accounts of how this has happened to them. And it's very real to them. And many of them actually have come on several platforms to talk about their experiences. So what was going on is that these nefarious, I don't want to call them nefarious because they ate humans like people eat animals, okay? But these entities would come to our planet, and they made it with some of the humans and created like a bloodline of family members that they put over every segment of society. And in order to reach a certain plateau or a certain place in politics and medicine and entertainment and in the media, in the school systems and higher education, in every segment of society, and banking, in order to participate or reach the highest levels, you had to do certain things under oaths. And this is where secret societies come in, like your Greek fraternities, your Black Greek fraternities, the Boule, Skull and Bones, and some of the free Masonic orders, your Eastern Stars, some of them. I'm not saying they're all nefarious. What I'm saying is that these secret societies would place certain people in position. They choose you. The I word illumin, the worst of that word, those illuminated beings. These secret societies would either recruit you and then place you in these certain positions, or my overstanding, some people could apply, but usually you can't apply. They will have to recruit you. But if they do allow you to apply, you have to go through certain rites of passages to prove yourself worthy to get into these secret societies, and then to be elevated among the ranks. Now, if you wanted to be elevated to CEO, presidents, top echelon actors, athletes, or make us over to 30 billion, there's a 30 million or 30 billion, a certain amount of money, maybe it was 30 million. If you wanted to reach a million, I'm not talking about regular millionaire status, I'm talking about way up there, you had to do things that involved children. So this is one of the things that I reported on yesterday about how this was a secret, though, that in order to move up the ranks in these secret societies, you had to participate in the P word, as it refers to children, the pedos, and doing things like taking pictures of them, of the children, harming them, being involved with them intimately in ways that are very, very sick. And then what they would do is they would record you. They could either force you or convince you, or they would drug you. So some actors have actually come out and talk about this, that they would, or and entertainers like musicians, they would drug them while they're at a party, have them to do things to children intimately, and you know what I mean by intimately, doing things that they should not do, participating in adult activities, and then they would film them while they're high or drunk on these chemicals or on these drugs. And then when they come to themselves, they would blackmail them and say, look what we caught you doing, and we have it on camera. So now you can't get out of it. So now you have to do what we tell you to do. Even if they didn't want to do certain things, if they didn't want to sing certain songs or write certain songs, if they didn't want to go to different presidential officials and give messages, if they didn't want to harm their own family members to move up the ranks, to sacrifice their family members, all these media people and people in power had to do was show the film of them harming children, and then it would destroy their reputation. But that fear being over their head was terrifying, and it made them do things that they should not have had to do. So this is one of the things that I was reporting on. You can go back to see my live from yesterday. I said breaking: a mayor and top officials were arrested for harming children. Thank you so much, Tristan Early. May the creator bless you. 1111. I love that. May you have all your heart's desires, and may you have perfect peace, love, balance, and prosperity. So I reported on yesterday how there was an official, a mayor, who was arrested for harming children. And that was so important to bring up because a lot of people just did not know that these things actually occur. A lot of people, when we came out, years and years ago, talking about this, said there's no way there's a such thing as a deep underground military base or a DUMS where children are being held and hurt. There's no way that these children are being harmed and mutilated. There's no way women are being bred to create these children that would be abused and mistreated and have their limbs ripped apart and be chased and hunted so that they can emit psychic energy that we call loosh for these nefarious beings to eat. That psychic energy is something that they would absorb into their being because they eat energetically. Then you had these people, these bloodline families and people who were part of these secret societies to take the blood of the children and create their own drug. And it's that drug start with A, right? And it ends in CHROME, from which your computer is named after. So, the Chrome computer. So they would take the blood, they would drink it and put it on their face, and it would cause an anti-aging type of experience, and just ingest it and put it on their bodies, which is why a lot of actors, athletes, and politicians never aged. One of the reasons they never aged, aside from the fact that they have replicas that were created after them. So you also had replicas being made in those deep underground military bases. So when a lot of us came out and start talking about these things going on, it sounded like we were lying because it's like way out there. How you can't fathom that this is going on in every segment of society. You can't fathom that mayors are participating in this, presidents, congressmen, congresspeople, athletes, entertainers, actors, actresses. It's just hard to believe that top level bankers and researchers and people that work for institutions of higher education, people that work in the community, pastors, it's hard to believe that this stuff is pervasive. So yesterday I wanted to do my due diligence to tell you that not only is it happening, but we're seeing arrests. Okay, so one of the arrests that I reported on was the Maryland mayor who was arrested and removed from office charged with over 50 counts of possession and distribution of the child pictures, child with tapes of doing things that are unlawful and unrighteous with children. So he was removed on yesterday, and I brought forth that article, and I also in my podcast brought forth other articles showing you that this is a real issue all across the world, not just here in America, but everywhere, all across the world. um so yeah, so somebody said 2/3 of Congress is in that boat, and that's why Congress actually at some point they will all be done away with, okay, or most of them. So in that report, I talked about how Donald Trump was chosen by the Grand Army of the Republic, or these military factions, the benevolent faction of the military that we call the white hats of the military, to take down this huge ring of P words, harm, child harmers. And doing such, he would speak in codes at certain events. And one of the things that he did was he talked about what number 44 had done before him. And then for the most part, though, he spoke in terminologies that people did not understand or overstand, terminologies that people made fun of. So on yesterday, I talked about how Donald Trump had even mentioned before that presidents were serving hamburgers. And that word is spelled Hamberders. And while a lot of people listened to that, they were like, wow, okay, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. Then you had a whole lot of people that, they wanted to tell me that I was lying, that I didn't know what I was talking about. President Trump didn't say hamburgers. He said hot dogs and pizza. Let me just clarify, or let me correct you, Dr. Pruitt. And so while I know that you probably didn't know what he said, you need to do your due diligence before you correct me. You need to do your due diligence before you call yourself calling me out, because I've been doing this for a long time. I'm a very effective researcher, and I've been studying this a long time and reporting a long time. So if you want to call me out, if you want to have an intelligible conversation, I'm that petty. I am that one who will correct you and tell you, do your due diligence and study, because the Bible says that your name is more precious than rubies and diamonds. And I don't want anybody out here saying that Dr. Kia Pruitt is a liar. Again, I have done the research, and not only have I done the research, I remember when President Trump said, he talked about serving hamburgers. Now, although in his speech he said that he had purchased hamburgers for a group of athletes, when you look at hamburgers and you do the research on the word, you do the gematria, and you understand the urban definition, and you understand how to decode, he was speaking explicitly about how 44 and some of the other leaders and entertainers were actually serving children. Okay, now I'm going to show you proof that he actually said it, because some people they don't know that he actually said it. In fact, they came in my comment section and said I wasn't telling the truth. They had to correct me, just a point of correction, Dr. Pruitt, or you're silly, you don't know what you're talking about. He said, and 44 and some of the other presidents did talk about hot dogs and pizza. So you're correct. But he talked about, and this is not even a laughing matter, this is something that's very serious. And what the media will do will try to make fun of you, try to tell you don't know what you're talking about, try to tell you you can't spell, laugh at you, to make a big joke about it so that we can joke and laugh about something that is not a laughing matter. It is not a laughing matter talking about children. It is not a laughing matter talking about arresting these people who have harmed children for hundreds and maybe even thousands of years. So let's get back to the serious business of the matter, and let's watch how President Trump made this statement, and how the media actually tried to make fun of him. So I hope you can hear it, because I have trucks in the background. It's raining in the background, but it feels cool out here. I'm going to push mute on my end so that you can hear it. And I ask kindly that you would put one in the chat just to let me know that you can hear this. Okay, here we go. I'm pushing mute now. If you can hear it, put one in the chat. If you cannot, please say no. Here we go. Listen to what President Trump says and how the media tried to deride him or try to chide him and make fun of him. And then we're going to get into a little bit of decoding what his speech actually meant. Now let's go ahead and push mute. Let's roll.
He's misspelled everything from hereby to tap my phone.
2 misspellings of the word council.
L-Y-E-N. Donald Trump made history today. Donald Trump today became the first U.S. president ever to congratulate himself on placing a fast food order. He tweeted, "Great being with the national champion Clemson Tigers last night at the White House. Because of the shutdown, I served them massive amounts of fast food. I paid over 1,000 hamburgers." That's right, hamburgers.
Burger King jumped in. Due to a large order placed yesterday, we're all out of hamburgers. Just serving hamburgers today.
Burger King made fun of the president. Burger King.
We're all out of hamburgers.
Hamburgers.
The E and the U aren't even near each other on the keyboard. Prepare your Burger Kingdom for a siege. Put the tweet up again for a second. Is it possible he thought they were called hamburgers until today?
Paid for by me. By me. Me. Paid for by me.
President's tweet has now been deleted and retweeted with the spelling error correction.
So you can see that was a publication from, looks like they're talking about how Burger King made fun of President Trump. This particular video was created or published 3 years ago. And I believe President Trump had made that statement about, maybe it was 2019 or 2020, about the Hamburger incident. So he talked about serving hamburgers. And what he was doing, as he often does, was speaking in codes, which is why he spelled the word incorrectly. When he made that statement, something in my spirit said, you need to check that out, Kia, and see what he's talking about, because the media, what they call it, mainstream media, will make fun of a person who's actually trying to correct them. So he is coming against the mainstream media. He is coming against presidents before him, and he was coming against officials all around the world, which is why he talked about serving hamburgers. So I'm glad I wasn't the only person who reported on this. I actually took to my social media. Facebook was the platform that I used to speak on, and I said, you all need to look into the word hamburgers. But I'm glad, although I couldn't find my publication of what I said about it, I was able to go into my archives and find this one. It was somebody else decoded it, what President Trump said. You have to know that when President Trump speaks, he's not always speaking to you and me. Typically, he is speaking to the people at the top to let him know that he's coming for them. Typically, he's speaking to people who understand and overstand gematria. He's also speaking to anybody really who has an ear to hear. So this person, who was a diligent researcher like I am, had come forward, and I can't remember what year. I want to say this is like 2019, 2020. And this is what he said: Hamburgers, Q Army, birders, QAnon, birder, where we go one, we go all. And he said, Hamburger decoded. It appears some serious pain is coming for the deep state. And that was the coded message that Donald Trump was giving when he said Hamburger. So again, you heard him say it. He did say it. Okay. He may have said hot dogs and pizza another time. And that's sad and disturbing that he even had to mention it, or anybody had, or even Obama mentioned it. Okay. But with this person, when they did the gematria and they did the research, Birder, when he looked at it, it says it's a thing or a person. Let me see. A thing or a person who is on the level below the devil and commits acts that the devil would consider evil. What are those acts that they committed? I did the research. The acts that's so atrocious that it's below the devil, and it's an act that even the devil would not commit. And it has to do with the Canaanites and the Canaanite worship. and what they do to babies is something that is deep and dark that President Trump was exposing. So I know what I'm talking about. I do my due diligence. I research, I read. And it used to be a time you can actually look up the word Hamburger online, but they've erased that from the internet. They've cleansed it from the internet. I was able to capture this and have bring it back up in my archives because, sometimes you just have to do that. Listen to this. Ham as a Hamburger, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to go through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. I think it's interesting that he pointed it out because people would tell Negroes that you came from Ham, but the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites. His indecency when his father lay drunken brought a curse upon Canaan. I don't know if you all know what happened when his father became drunken, but he did something to and with his father. What is Canaanite worship? What did they worship? They worship various gods, including El, his wife Asherah, drain god Dagon, a sea god Yam, and his serpent Ali Lotan, a huntress Anath, a love goddess, and it goes on, and the storm god Baal, who superseded El in the Canaanite pantheon. Some of you may not know that Baal worship, Canaanite worship, Molech worship includes putting your children through the fire. And that's why the Bible said, do not participate in Baal worship. Do not pass your children through the fire as those who worship Molech do. Because those who worship Molech actually sacrifice children, harm children, mutilate children, hurt children, do indecent things to children that involve intimacy. And I don't mean, I don't mean to say it like that's a nice word, but exualse, speaking in pig Latin, exualse type of activities with children. So when Donald Trump talked about Hamburgers, he was actually exposing the deep state and letting them know that I see what you're doing to the children, and I'm coming against you. So this is what I was talking about on yesterday. So Dr. Kia Pruitt knows what she's talking about. She was not lying. She didn't need to be corrected on that particular incident, but I'm not above and beyond being corrected. All I'm saying, if you're going to come on my platform and try to discredit me and call yourself trying to call me out, if you're going to do reaction videos or whatever some people like to do, get it correct, because I'm going to clear my name. This is not a laughing matter. It's not something to be funny about. It's not something to laugh about. It's not something to make fun of. Do your due diligence, and you'll see that this issue is pervasive. It's a problem that these people were actually hurting our children. Another thing somebody said was, well, I don't trust DeSantis. And listen, it's okay if you don't. That's not the point of me bringing him up. Yesterday, what I said was DeSantis created a law or signed a law and created a law that would stop or prevent Disney from being a self-governing entity. And the reason why he or the actor, and I said this last night, or maybe the actor posing as him, I don't know who it is, but for the sake of argument, the reason why DeSantis created this law to stop Disney from being a self-governing entity is because ever since for decades, I don't know what year I cited from last night, but for decades, they've been able to govern themselves, to create their own laws, to do whatever they want to do. After they bought a whole lot of land, they took possession of that land, and now being the owners of that land, they had a lot of power. They had their own laws. They bought out politicians, and they could now, whenever their corporate workers or employers were found out for doing the things that they did with children, they would just pay off the politicians or create their own laws that it was okay. So that's why DeSantis actually signed that bill and made it a law. So I know people were saying, well, I don't trust him. I don't know why you brought his name up. I can't trust him as far as I can throw him. That's not the point. Let's stick to the point. The issue is that our children have been crying out for a long time to be saved and rescued from the deep state, who has done some nefarious things to them. And for the people who don't know if this is true, what I would encourage us to do is Google the different operations that are saving children who have been involved in these compromising activities. And I will also encourage you to follow somebody, a good friend of mine who speaks out about what happens to our children because he actually was a victim at one time. His name is Alan Fountain. He is one of my good friends, Facebook friends, and I follow him on Twitter. He speaks about how the global elites have done nefarious things to our children. And here's his cover right here: The Global Epidemic of Child Extramarital Abuse and Trafficking. He's been on Nicholas Benyamin's show. He's been on other shows. And if God be willing, I'm going to actually ask him to come on my show. So we communicate on social media, but it's been a while. So it would make this issue be more real if I brought somebody on the platform who's been a victim and also been involved in the fight. He's been involved in many organizations and many entities to bring exposure to how people, not only at the highest levels in government, at highest levels in every segment of our society, but even your coaches and your nurses and some of your boys and girl club leaders and media directors and stuff like that, photographers, have been harming our children. So we give thanks for him for bringing that to light. I would encourage you to follow him just so you can see for yourself that some of this stuff is very real. Somebody said, yes, do your research. Alan Fountain has some very important information to bring forward to help us see how deep this issue goes, bringing the flames of truth and light to those trying to gaslight the masses. Thank you so much, Savvy. Yes. So if you're trying to gaslight us, if you're trying to discredit us, if you're trying to say we don't know what we're talking about, I'm that one. I'm going to call you out. I might not call you by name, but I'm just going to correct you and bring the research and bring the evidence. And then once you do your research, so I'm talking to the people who tried to make fun of me, then we can have an intelligible conversation and righteous discourse, because some people just don't know. I mean, when you hear of things that's this outlandish and you just don't know, then it's easy to say that I'm lying, but I'm not. I'm telling the truth, and I would never do that. Another thing that somebody asked was, how come nobody has been talking about this? And how do we know arrests are really going on? And is this really real? I can tell you, you can do a quick Google search and you can find out for yourself that it's real. You can talk to some of the military people and that you know, and they will tell you, because some of them either have been involved in taking down these, these rings that involve harming children. They've also been involved in cleaning out some of the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases. So this is why, just like 2 years ago, people all over, not just America, but all over the world, were talking about hearing these explosions in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and we couldn't figure out where these explosions were coming from. The ground was shaking. We're like, it's not an earthquake. What was happening is that 45 and the white hats of the military were actually going underground, where they were harvesting organs, where they were mutilating children, where they were breeding women to create children, where they were cloning or replicating people and children, where they were harming children. They had to go down there, rescue as many as they could, and then they had to just go out and flood it out or bomb it and explode it. So we have a lot of military people who lost their lives in that battle, and not just in the battle to save our children, but in the battle to restore our freedom and our sovereignty and our prosperity and peace. And one of those people who actually died in the battle is Gold Star Mother Susan Price's son. Now, she's probably listening, or she will listen later on, but I'm going to share a video of her son who died in the battle 13 and a half years ago. He was a white hat. So this battle has been going on a long time against evil. He died in the battle, and that's how she became a Gold Star Mother. I'll be sharing those videos on tomorrow, and then on Monday, she'll come and share her story. So we've been reporting this for a long time, and I don't know if some of you actually saw this through Operation Disclosure, but one of the articles that I wrote from Operation Disclosure actually went viral. And this is an article, this was a republication of the article. This one was published January the 9th, 2021, but it comes from an earlier article that I did in March, and I'll bring that for you. And it's called "The Planet is Being Cleansed, Coronavirus is a cover. It was posted by Mr. Ed, but you'll see it's by Dr. Kia Pruitt. I reported on this actually in 2020, way before 2020, but I reported in 2020, March, right before the shutdown. I took to my social media platform on Twitter and I went to Facebook earlier in March and I said, look, we've been told a long time ago that there was a Black Swan event that was about to happen. It's going to shut down the whole world. But National Guard will be on the grounds. They're going to give everybody a curfew. They're going to tell everybody to stay in their houses. I said, but don't be afraid. The military will be there to give you food if you need food. And I went on to talk about how behind the scenes people are being arrested. And I talk about what those arrests were about. And somebody took my article that I wrote early March and they gave it to Operation Disclosure. They gave it to Rumor Mills. They gave it to And We Know, which is a very popular, it was a very popular YouTube channel, but I think they went underground. That article went extremely viral because on one hand, people were making fun of me and laugh and say, I didn't know what I was talking about. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Nobody's going to shut down the world. There's no such thing as a Black Swan event. Oh, shut up. The whole world can't be shut down. And I'm like, I'm telling you what people at the top level are telling me. I'm telling you what the creator and some other beings that most people don't get don't have the ability to see came to me to tell me what's going to happen. And so I went on platforms, I talked about it. I went on podcasts, I talked about it. And whereas some people laughed at me, other people, especially your preppers, they were like, we know that's to be the case. We've been prepping for years and warning people that this could happen at any time. So those people and people that their colleagues actually took my article and it went viral right before the shutdown, although I had written it before the shutdown. And then during the shutdown, people were reading it and I was getting calls all across the country, like people who had unfriended me, told me I was crazy. I mean, because I was supporting 45 and saying he was taking down deep state. They called me a racist. They called me a white supremacist because I said I'm a nationalist, meaning I love my nation. Oh, you must be a white nationalist. I'm like, okay, whatever. They called me a coon. They called me a sellout, all kinds of names. But once the shutdown happened, people got a little silent because people like you and me know that this war is huge and it's deep and it's harmful and it's hurtful and it's detrimental and it's a travesty. It's something sinister beyond our imagination. So I'm going to get into what that article said because, I mean, even on Twitter, what happened was they tried to tell me, you don't have a real doctorate. Look, you can Google me. It's really simple. I mean, I'm not even trying to be smart aleck. If you think I'm a fake and a phony, not all of you don't. I'm just saying some people do. It's really an easy thing. All you got to do is Google Dr. Kia Pruitt. It's really that simple. You can go to the University of Louisville. You can see I have a PhD in what it's in, But on Twitter, when I published this article, actually when I put it on Facebook and Twitter, some people came for me, but it really got bad on Twitter where they were like, they screenshot my information, my profile on Facebook that said I had a PhD, and they went all over Twitter. PhD in what? She's a fake, she's a fraud, she's a phony. I mean, it was bad. I was like, oh my God, like that's not the kind of exposure I want. And it made me feel so ashamed that I was like, I took off my credentials because I was like, I worked hard for these credentials, and if people are going to make fun of me, I'm just going to be quiet. But people can be really, really weird. All you have to do is Google. All you have to do is research. Go to the University of Louisville. You'll see my actual dissertation published. You will actually see the distinguished professor, Sam Stringfield, who headed and chaired my dissertation committee. You'll see Amy Hershey, another well-known researcher and professor. You'll see Dr. Ricky Jones, the department chair of the Pan-African Studies Department at the University of Louisville, and a distinguished person with high honors who wrote the book Black Haze that talk about the nefarious things that go on in Black Greek societies. I know what I'm talking about because I know people who have written prolifically about these things. I know them personally. Okay, they were on my committee. I shook hands with them. I ate dinner with them. They're my friends. As well as I had other people on my community who actually had to listened to my dissertation, and I had to prove to them that the things about which I was speaking were true. I had to validate them. I had to provide extra sources to support my claim and citations, which is something I try to always do here because a lot of people don't have the time to read. So let's look at what my article said, because people are asking me, why didn't anybody say this? If this is real, why didn't anybody research it or talk about it? Actually, some people did, but they were made fun of and they were shut down, and they were what some people call gaslighted, and people would invite me on their invite me and people like me. They invited Isaac Cappy, who was a B-list Hollywood actor, to talk about it. They would invite Alan Fountain to talk about it. They would invite people like everyday people like us, and then they would on their platform let people talk about us, make fun of us and stuff like that. So you keep talking and you keep sharing the truth, but some people are louder than you, and so they'll try to keep you quiet. We also talked about Cvine and how Cvine, C-VINE.com, was it .com or .org? Something, maybe .net, I can't remember, how that publication would actually show you military tribunals. But if you never heard this information before, it could sound like you're lying, right? So here you go. Here is what I wrote in March. Now, again, this was republished January the 9th. I'll see if I can find you the original one. You can Google Dr. Kia Pruitt, The Planet is Being Cleansed. And what you'll see is a bunch of articles and publications that actually recited what I said. And you can see the original date that it was put into rumor mills was something like March the 12th or something like that. But somebody republished this or reposted this. And the reason why they did is because they said, remember what she said. The Planet is Being Cleansed. Coronavirus is a cover, by Dr. Kia Pruitt via email. Somebody sent it to somebody via email, and they published it in the rumor mills. They published it all over the world. And I got phone calls from all over saying that it was in the churches. It was in people was reading at the coffee table in their organization. So I'm very grateful that the information got out. My point is, sometimes people are actually telling the truth, but they'll try to cover it or they'll try to silence you. We were told years ago, this is by me, Dr. Kia Pruitt, that there would be an event that would quarantine America and possibly the planet in order to make global mass arrests. We were encouraged to stock up on food, water, and supplies. We were also instructed to remain calm. And so I have been telling this to people for years. Once I had a visitation by non-human beings, and once I got the verification from people involved in the battle. Stock up, this is going to happen. We were also instructed to remain calm. Martial law may be implemented to keep people off the street while these arrests occur. So these arrests have been occurring since then, and they are ongoing. But this article went viral during the shutdown when a lot of the arrests were actually occurring. Schools would be closed. Mind you, I said this before the schools were closed, okay? Flights would be grounded, airports would be closed, etc. Why? And I'm not the only person who was talking like this. Because the people being arrested for participating in corruption and worldwide P word and human T word, crimes against humanity, treason, murder, rape, etc., is massive, and it affects every aspect of society. This includes Hollywood entertainers, NBA and NFL athletes and staff, politicians, pastors, banking CEOs, corporate heads, school officials, coaches, and educators. Some of your doctors, lawyers, judges, college professors, school teachers, police officers and chiefs, firemen, business owners, airport workers, pilots, bankers, priests. Everyday people are currently being arrested for their crimes against humanity. A lot of them are involved in nefarious behaviors in secret societies. So the masses have not been privy to their wrongdoings, ritualistic abuse, child trafficking trade, child hunting parties, ritualistic murder maze, drug trafficking trade, that's pig Latin, involvement in underground activities in the deep underground military bases, also known as DUMBs. This is why some of us reported on a notable resignation list for the last 2 years. So this, again, I published this in 2020. 2 years prior, I kept talking about there's a resignation list where people are going to start resigning. And these are the people that have resigned because behind the scenes, they've actually been arrested and they're being tried at Guantanamo Bay or going through military tribunals. So I said, why? This is why some of us reported on a notable resignation list for 2 years. Many people were on that list under the guise of resignation. We also reported on military tribunals, which began January 2019. Some of us watched military tribunals take place on cvine.com. I actually got to see some of them. The corruption is huge. POTUS asked, this was number 45, he asked people not be in crowds. One reason, other than catching the V word, the sickness, the code, the virus, is because the deep state NWO corrupt leaders could attempt to retaliate. That's why they had us inside the house. So what Satan means for your harm, God will turn around for your good. So while the nefarious beings were saying, get everybody off the street because the virus is so pervasive and we don't want everybody sick, while they were on the one hand doing it and also to control us, the good faction of the military, the White House, the people empowered, the real president, 45, actually used that as an opportunity to make sure we stayed at home safely while they were making huge arrests, while they were actually getting people who were involved, and also Antifa and BLM who were inciting riots. They were getting their leaders too and arresting them. So they were securing the streets, securing the whole world. And we had to be safe because if you weren't in the house, they could, the deep state could retaliate. You see how that works? This is why some of us report, where am I? One reason other than catching the V word is because the deep state NWO corrupt leaders could attempt to retaliate since they know that we've been involved in a covert operation against them. Be safe, I said. The planet is being cleansed. The corona is a cover. While it is true that the deep state global NWO elites created the V word and attempted to infect the masses, Trump and the Global Alliance co-opted the operation, and they use it as a cover to arrest global elites, including the Pope and the unroyal family, politicians, and Hollywood elites. The mainstream media will announce that folks came down with the V word, the sickness. Actually, they've been arrested. Some have been at Guantanamo Bay or Gitmo for a while, actually, and at some point an announcement will be made. Remain calm and be stocked up, Dr. Kia Pruitt said. It's my article. Those people who don't have food and supplies will have an opportunity to get it from neighbors or the military because troops will likely be on the ground to 1, make arrests, 2, keep everybody calm. A curfew may be implemented. We were instructed also that new monetary policies and our new gold-backed system will be implemented and trillions injected into the economy after the global mass arrest. Otherwise, these nefarious beings would have once again stolen our wealth and re-empowered themselves. Soon, the republic, our lawful government, will be restored and constitutional law. Be encouraged. Things are finally getting better for humanity, Dr. Kia Pruitt wrote. So you can see that actually these things have been published and talked about for years. But sometimes when you talk about things that everybody haven't heard, it looks like you're making things up. And I do understand that. What did you say? Feed the Gitmo residents? Yes. So I want to show you how, even though that was republished in January, let me see if I can find the original article. The original article was actually in March of 2020. And I'll see if I can find that for you, just so you can know that I'm not making this up, that I did write this before the shutdown actually happened. So if you Google it, you'll see it. You'll see all the things that I wrote. Or most of the things that I wrote. But in regards to this article, coronavirus is a cover. The planet is being cleansed. This was published March 13, 2020. I actually wrote it a couple of days before it. I had been talking about it years before, but I wrote this this came from my Facebook page. I wrote this on Facebook early March. Somebody sent it to somebody via email until it made its rounds and became published in rumor mills and other platforms. So you can see the original date was March the 12th, 2020, and it was sent to Mr. Ed, and Mr. Ed actually published this article for me. So yeah, again, if you Google Dr. Kia Pruitt says the planet is being cleansed, you'll find the original articles and maybe even some of the videos that were published out there. Some people who had put this intel in their videos actually took their videos down later for whatever reason. I don't know, but I'm still very appreciative that they shared the information, because a lot of people were able to stock up and prepare and to know what's been going on behind the scenes. So my encouragement for us all today is to be encouraged, because a lot of people are indeed being arrested. A lot of people are being judged. A lot of people have been at Guantanamo Bay. A lot of people have already gone through military tribunals. So what we see now is actors. We see CGI, computer generated imagery. We see replicas. We see people with masks. We see all type of things, because they're kind of keeping up the charade before they just come straight out, and they will, on an EBS or emergency broadcast system announcement to let us know what actually has been going on. They're going to tell us the truth, but everybody is not able to digest this information, and they certainly wouldn't have been able to handle this before 46. They would have made fun of 45 like they did when he talked about hamburgers and when he spoke in codes to let us know what was really going on with the deep state. They would have made fun of him, just like they did also when he talked about how you can handle the virus by what do you call it, UV light, that you can do through the veins. Now, a lot of nurses came to me and they verified that this is actually a healing modality. But what some of these people did, like the mainstream media reporters, they said, oh, he said to drink bleach, which he never said. And people kept reciting that. He said, drink bleach. 45 is crazy. He's stupid. How could you support him? Do people even think? Do they even listen? You could go to the speech, listen to it for yourself. He did not say ingest bleach. I don't understand. Somebody said he is cognitive dissonance. I don't get it. We really should turn off mainstream media, turn off the radio, turn off the television, because a lot of it is low vibrational news and information and low vibrational energy that's flooding our body and our being and our homes. And research and read for yourself. And if you don't want to know what's going on, just stay in nature, go around happy people, joyous people, go around energies that will continually raise your vibrations. But the good news is, yes, things are happening behind the scenes. Arrests are being made. And finally, there was an article that came out about the mayor who was arrested 2 days ago for harming children. And that article actually implicated somebody else. And I'll see if I can find that. Dang, I don't think I have it. But it was an article that talked about who his mentor was. Have you all seen that? Let's see if you find that. I don't see it. It talks about, I'll see if I can find it for you. Yep, I got it. Oh, no, this isn't it. So if you can go to, what's his name? Mayor arrested. I'm going to look up his mentor, because his mentor worked for 45. See, look at who is it, baby? Don't answer it. Okay, here it is. I'm going to show you who his mentor is. Don't answer it, please. It's interesting to bring out. Yeah, it was the Maryland mayor. And yesterday or last night, I also presented other mayors. I talked about other mayors who were arrested for harming our children. So here it is. Here's an article, and we'll close with this. It says, accused P word Mayor Patrick Wohan called Peter Buttigieg his buddy and mentor. So who is this Peter guy that's his buddy and mentor? It says Patrick Wohan, the Maryland mayor, busted on charges of possessing child. You know what? Thursday has had a long-time mentor-mentee relationship with 46's embattled transportation secretary. 46's transportation secretary is the mentor, allegedly, according to the mayor, is the mentor of the mayor who was arrested for harming children. When I was growing up, our elders used to say birds of a feather flock together, and sometimes you're guilty by association. So if this man was arrested for harming children, for doing nefarious things that adults should not do to little babies and little boys and little girls, if indeed, now he was arrested for it, and he wrote a letter saying he resigned and he didn't want his behavior to be an implication of what had gone on in other aspects of government. But if he has been found guilty or he was arrested for this nefarious behavior, then what does that say about his mentor, President Biden's transportation secretary? He said he met him. He said, I actually met Mayor Pete Buttigieg shortly after I was elected mayor in 2015. Wohan, who is a homosexual, told the Washington Blade, an LGBT focused news outlet, back in 2019. The reason why they're bringing up that Wohan, the man who was arrested for harming children, the reason why they're bringing up the fact that he is gay is because he's a well-known gay activist. And that's why one of the reasons he took to this particular platform to talk about being a mentee of Buttigieg was because it was an LGBT focused news outlet, and he is a well-known gay mayor and gay activist. So I don't think they're trying to poke fun of him. I think, this is just one of his things that he would talk about and he would advocate for, was the homosexual community. But now he's been found guilty of harming children. This issue has been going on for not just decades, not for hundreds of years, but for thousands of years. And finally, the planet is being cleansed. So I will ask you, I submit to you to please pray for our children, pray for the military, pray for the number 45, pray for the family members who have had to deal with these atrocities happening to their children after their children were ripped from them and stolen from them through CPS and trafficked all across not only America, but the globe. And pray for our Gold Star families. Our Gold Star families, again, like Gold Star Mother Susan Price, are those family members who have had to bury their sons and daughters, mostly their sons. They've had to bury their family members who participated in this fight against the deep state. They've had to go through the DUMBs and flood them out. They've had to arrest people that were harming children. They've had to pretend to be on the side of darkness in order to gather information and expose it and bring it to light. Pray for those Gold Star families. Pray for us, because we've some of us have been complicit, but some of us have just been ignorant. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know that presidents were serving hot dogs and piece of hamburgers, meaning our children, while they were having their White House parties. We didn't know that they were passing children through the fire and worshiping Molech, which is something that the Yahweh, the God of the Bible, instructed us not to do. We didn't know that they were worshiping Baal. We didn't know that they were participating in certain parties with, what was her name? Abramovich or something like that, the good friend or one of the close friends of Jay-Z, who would create paintings from the blood of children. We didn't know this, but it's what's been going on. And now the cries of the children have reached heaven. The cries of the children are now coming from the earth. The blood of the children is crying out to us and crying out to the Creator. The blood of the children is reaching a crescendo. They're reaching the ears of the people. They're reaching the heavens. They desire to be heard. They desire to be vindicated. They desire to be liberated. So it is our responsibility as being people involved in the fight, as being part of the soldiers, the digital soldiers, or just being good people, as being guardians, being elders, or just being humans that care about the babies. It's our responsibility to pray on their behalf, to fight on their behalf, to stand in the gap and protect them, to advocate for them. It's our responsibility too, if you're going to be involved in humanitarian projects, for those of us who have a heart, to do whatever we can to heal them. Who's going to house these children? Who's going to heal them? Who's going to counsel them? Who's going to bring them under their protective covering? Okay, so now you have people coming out talking about it. Now you have people that are not afraid. Now you have people who are tired of being made fun of and being gaslighted or being told you're not real, you don't know what you're talking about. We're tired of it. We don't care anymore. We're coming forward and we're speaking on behalf of the children. And so are you. You're speaking on behalf of the children. And some of you who didn't know, now you will speak and stand in the gap for our children. So that's it, family. A lot of people, when you told them some of the things that was going on, it didn't wake them up. But when you bring out what's been happening to our children worldwide, it's going to wake up a lot of people. Somebody said we had no idea what they were doing, but now we know. Absolutely. Thank you so much, sister. Now we know. Yes, this is what Marina I can't say it. Abramovich. Thank you. Yes, something like that. She participated in this activity of creating artwork with the blood and bones and stuff of children. And they would have these parties where they would celebrate it and ingest the blood of our children. So I'm so sorry I had to bring out this type of information. It's hurtful. It's hard to talk about. Last night, I tried to talk about it. I was passionate. I had been crying. It was kind of hard for me to smile because it's hard to laugh. It's hard to smile when you know that our children have been harmed. So that's it, family. I ask that you keep them in your prayer. A prime minister, a patriot, a fighter who has been in this fight for a long time. He and I will bring somebody very important to you on Thursday to talk to you about this issue. And on Monday, Gold Star Mother Susan Price will be here to tell her story. So I love you. That's it, family. Take care. Make this a great day. And I trust that this information will inspire you to create humanitarian projects that will raise the vibrations of those children that we love. Peace, family. Bye-bye. Take care.